We are live for a new episode of the Electric Podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub, coming us live from Germany today. How are you doing, Seth?
Good. How's Mississippi?
Yeah, I'm coming live from Mississippi. So we're both been traveling a lot this week. We're both extremely tired on this Friday night, but we're gonna try to rally a little bit to give you guys a good episode and to look into all the news this week. And first off, this episode of the podcast is sponsored. We have a sponsor this week. It's Aviton. Aviton's award Pace 50 and 350 set the standard for upright cruisers e-bikes with new upgrade and design feature. You can check out the full lineup at Eventon's website, which is linked in the show notes below. But we're gonna have a little bit more to say about them later on the show, so stay tuned for that. But we'll jump in. We'll jump in on all the news this week. We have a lot of news item, but nothing too big. Nothing that we're gonna last too long on. So we're gonna try to move the show along pretty quickly. And we're gonna start with this thing we talked about a little bit last week or the week before that, maybe. But we thought it was coming, but we weren't so sure, and now it's actually coming. This is an interesting approach here that a lot of people kind of agree with, but it seems to be dead in the water. Um, it's Aptera Aptera has been very pushing hard that they want to adopt Tesla's supercharger and more specifically Tesla's plug, the actual connector, and they want to do that for their own electric solar vehicle. And but now they're asking for a more broader adoption of the Tesla plug, asking Congress to a petition to make Tesla's plug and its supercharger network the standard for electric vehicle in the U.S. And we kind of shared their opinion last time a little bit. It's the same. They think that the CCS and the J1772 is too clunky. It's not a very elegant design. I mean, you can just take a look at it, and there's no discussion there. It's obviously not an elegant design, a more difficult to maneuver. The big argument is for smaller people, for women, especially in the winter. It's literally difficult to handle this, and even for men. I had my issues sometimes, just like especially depending on the situation with the cable. It's harder to manipulate. It's not easy. Compared to the Tesla supercharger, which even though it does have the supercharger, it has a bigger, thicker cable that can be also hard to manipulate. At the connector level, it's super easy. And then when you're talking about like a level 2, because the same connector is for level 2 and level 3, it's as easy as it gets. So they're saying that this should be the standard for electric vehicle in the US, even though everything is moving to CCS because it's more lightweight, it's extremely efficient, and it's an elegant connector. So this petition kind of got some traction this week after launching. It already has now over 15,000 signatures, and everyone that is made aware that everyone that is familiar with the EV space and has been made aware of this effort here from Aptera, they agree with it. Like yeah, it makes sense. However, at the same time, it's like it's a bit too late for this. Like this should have happened probably like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. If you look at the EV market in the US, it would technically still make sense because Tesla still represent like a significant majority of the electric vehicle on the US fleet. But there's so many other new vehicle coming to market right now. There's already a bunch of them that are there, just not in a high volume enough to really compare to Tesla in terms of the overall fleet. But to change all those, or to make a way to have an adapters for all those vehicles, and to have all the Electrify America station, all the EVgo station. Though EVgo already has adopted Tesla's connector in some of their stations, so there's already some steps to be fair there. But it looks to be like a giant mess to do that. And not even Tesla is asking for it right now. Like Tesla is already kind of admitting defeat on that front. Not that they fought like very strongly for this. Like they just developed their own charger, their own connector because nothing else existed at the time. But now that the CCS is taking over, they are integrating that into their own business. So it's not. I mean, I just every way I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it makes sense. I just don't see a way that this is gonna happen. I don't know. What do you think, Seth?
Yeah, so a lot of things there. One, it's interesting that Aptera is the one bringing it to market or bringing this thing out because you would think Tesla would be the one fighting for it. Aptera, obviously, you know, they're trying to keep their car as light as possible. They're trying to be as efficient as possible. So it makes sense that they would want a Tesla adapter versus a bigger CCS combo adapter. There's tons of actual like um, royalties that need to be paid for CCS,
Oh, that's a good
whereas
point. I forgot. Yeah.
yeah, whereas Tesla doesn't have any, or they offered their patents for free. I just think none of the big companies wanted to put all their charging marbles or whatever you call them in Tesla's hands. Um, Maybe what would have been more effective, or could still be more effective, is if Tesla tries to make the super their adapter like the next CCS standard
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, or maybe they meet halfway or something. I don't know if there's a way to deal with it, but when I see this, it reminds me of the Tesla, sorry, the VHS versus Sony Betamax thing,
Yeah.
where Sony Betamax was a smaller tape. It had better resolution, better sound, but Sony owned all the
Mm-hmm.
rights to it. So all the other companies got together and said, let's make this other
Mm-hmm.
thing which was bigger and clunkier and not as good quality. But because every other company was doing it, it became this, all the uh, most people probably don't remember this, but when Blockbuster would have like this little wall of
Section.
Betamax,
Yeah.
and then they would have
Mm.
a whole library of VHS tapes. So people were like, "Yeah, I'll just buy the bigger."
Did you
So
have a Sony Betamax machine? To
no, we were actually going to buy one. We were kind of
Mm,
late
mm,
getting into the tape wars, I
mm,
think. But when we got one, we got a lot of tapes after that. But yeah, I just remember like we went into, I don't think it was called a Blockbuster. I think whatever our local place was, and there was like a shelf for Betamax, and
mhm.
it was like 3 feet long, maybe like 20 tapes, and then
Yeah.
there was like a literal library for VHS. So we were like, we know what we're doing.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
and
there's one thing I like, now that you say that I think we should mention just to better represent Aptera's initiative here is that one of their main argument is that this is coming at a time where the federal government is investing billions of dollars into electric vehicle infrastructure. So their point is more like, hey, you guys are about to choose a winner here by investing like a
right.
ton of money in it and deploying a lot more station than already exists. So if you're about to choose a winner, you should choose the right one. This is kind of the point. But as I mean, the government has already discussed with all the stakeholders and everything, and I think that all the stakeholders went the VHS way.
Yeah, I wonder how low Tesla's price point is for the adapters. Like if they made them at scale, could they make them for like $80 or something? Because if they could do that,
Hmm.
then you could almost say, all right, let's make adapters for, and then have backwards adapters too.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, but the other issue is that when we say that Tesla is open sourcing their patent when it comes to electric vehicle and their charging station, it's not a true open source where it's more you can use them for free and we won't sue you, but in exchange you don't sue us with anything related to intellectual property theft, which I mean sounds completely fair. Like, it's not like a bad thing for Tesla to say. It's completely fair, but at the same time what it does, it's basically open season at this point, and then Tesla would be able to, if they would want to, I'm not saying that they want to, but it's like a lot of those companies at this high level, or the lawyers have a lot of inputs in those companies. Sometimes some of the top executive are from a lawyer background, and like they see something like that and it's a big no for them, and they don't want to get involved in it at all, which is a problem, I think, at this level, when you want, because like you said, it's cheaper, and not only that, like I think Aptera is pushing a little bit further than just the connector itself. They say like, we look at the Tesla supercharger network, and this as a whole should be a standard, because I mean we just reported on a study of the fast charging station in the Bay Area that showed that the uptime was horrific for anything else or anything other than Tesla,
right.
and the experience in general. You come to a Tesla supercharger, the plug and charge has been around forever. It's a super smooth experience. I mean, I've just driven 2,000 miles in the last week alone using the supercharger network, and I never had an issue stopping at supercharger. The only thing I can complain of is sometimes when you stop at superchargers, you don't have all the choices that you would want in terms of amenities. But like sometimes I just don't want to go to a Waffle House or something. But other than that, it's
Come on,
I
Waffle
mean,
House.
I went to my first Waffle House the other day because it was next to a Tesla supercharger, and so I know that there's a lot of different Waffle House. So I'm not gonna judge the whole brands around that, but
Did you try the
there's
grits?
the whole place didn't hold up to my hygiene standards. But I mean, it might have been just this particular ones, but so I'm not blaming the whole Waffle House brand. But yeah, other than that, like it's hard to say anything about the supercharger network that's not positive. Of course, I drove through the Midwest and the South, so it's not the most busiest route ever. So I know a lot of people in the Bay Area right now would be saying, "Yeah, I have some complaint about the supercharger network," and that would be the wait times. But Tesla's, of course, trying to address that with deploying more station. It's just that the demand for the cars are so strong that it's hard to keep up with the deployment. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, what do you put the chances of that happening at all?
I think very little, and it's really unfortunate because we're it's getting worse.
Yeah.
So what's bad is like EVgo and Electrify America are the two main charging networks in the U.S. EVgo has a huge deal with GM, and now they're doing their own plug-in charge with GM. So like GM cars will pull
Mhm.
up to an EVgo and plug in, and they'll start charging automatically. Everybody else has to like get an app, push a button, do all this stuff. Which,
Mhm.
if it's working, is great. I mean, it's fine. It's not the best, but you know, everybody knows our stance is like plug and charge should be everywhere, like
Mhm.
without a doubt. So, yeah, it's just it's depressing because it's getting worse. Like, there's no like, maybe the government should be like, look, we're mandating plug and go for every car, plug and go for every machine, and if you don't have plug and
And charge.
charge on your car, then you don't get a $7,500 rebate. And if you don't have you know plug and charge on your charging stations, then you don't get whatever money they're.
Access to the fund, the federal
Yeah,
fund.
I mean, if,
Yeah, I
if
mean you're right. That would be make a lot more sense than getting $4,500 more because your car may or may not be made by union workers.
right,
It's like that would make more sense, but I think we're so far from that right now. Um, I mean, I mean, when you look at like this picture here, for example, the design itself is so obviously better.
right,
The only thing that people have been commenting on in terms of the design and the capability that I think is a good point is a CCS. Well, there's two things. CCS has right now can go up to 600 kilowatts. I think that the
right,
highest capacity.
right,
I don't think Tesla can do that.
right. That's correct.
Tesla can do that and more with the mega charger connector, but that is a bigger connector, closer to the size. But not. I don't even think that's as big as the CCS2 either. But it's a different form. It's more like rectangular. But I would like to see like both side by side, see what's bigger. But and bidirectional charging capacity, though Tesla says that is built in, so they're not using it right now, but they have the capacity to the charger, just maybe not their vehicles right now. Um, so there's these two caveats, but for other than that, it's just no doubt who's the winner here. Who's the winner on paper? Who's actually become the standard is obviously CCS.
Yeah, and it's a shame.
Yeah. All right, on the battery front, we have Panasonic that has been making a lot of wave this week for two reasons. First off, they are teasing a battery capacity increase that's going to come. They don't say when; they just say by the end of the decade. But the fact that they're talking about it right now, publicly like that, it's not some kind of reports from insider. It's actually, oh boy, I'm so sorry, man. So, Mr. Watanabe, I think his last name is a little bit easier. The CTO of Panasonic Energy, and he's the leader of the partnership between Panasonic and Tesla. And they are working right now on a new electrolyte. So you have in a battery cell, you have the anode, the cathode, and the electrolyte in between. And they are trying to they're not trying to they have developed a new electrolyte that they're trying to bring to production. And this new electrolyte they think is going to enable energy density increase of 20% in their existing battery cells, which if you look at the highest battery cell that Panasonic is now producing for Tesla, it's this about 750 watt hour per liter. So that would boost it to 900 watt hour per liter. And on the voltage side, they think that they can get it from 4.2, the Tesla cells right now that they're producing, to either 4.5 or 4.6. And that would be a game changer. I mean, the Panasonic is already producing very great cells for Tesla, but that would the people are always talking about, oh, more range is going to be more range for on the sides of Tesla. I don't think that would necessarily result from more range for Tesla. I think instead Tesla, what we would do is they would build smaller battery pack and more efficient vehicle with similar range, or maybe a little bit higher but not much higher, because people are mostly happy with the range in the Tesla vehicles right now. Not a lot of people are asking for a lot more. There's always the winter conditions that is more bothering people, and I think Tesla should eventually, when they figure out production a little bit more, that they're not so production constrained. I think I could see Tesla offering maybe another option for longer range vehicles on their same units or their same models. But for now, that's not the case. But that could enable that. But I think the bigger impact of that is that you could produce more vehicle with fewer batteries and for cheaper. But Mr. Watanabe also hinted that this opened up also other avenue for electrifying other mode of transport. Of course, the planes have been something that I've been looked into a lot. That you need higher energy density because you just need it more efficient in terms of the weight ratio, and that is starting to become into the range of like, oh, we could make commercial electric planes viable with this. So this is an exciting stuff. Again, they don't say when. They say that it's gonna come this decade, but we don't know when. Of course, it does also matches with Panasonic talking about producing the Tesla 4680 format cells, which for that they've guided the next financial year, which start in April for Panasonic. The Japanese they use the financial year a lot instead of the regular calendar year. But that was actually just one of two big news from Panasonic this week, and both are kind of related for Tesla because, of course, Panasonic's biggest customer in terms of automotive cells is Tesla. Is Panasonic announced that they're going to build a giant battery cell factory in Kansas, and it was confirmed that it's to supply Tesla with the new 4680 cell. We've been reporting that they've confirmed for a long time that they were looking at location in the U.S. for a new battery factory ever since they announced that they're investing heavily into the 4680 cell. And they were choosing between Kansas and Oklahoma. There was apparently they were close to a deal in Oklahoma. The governor in April was asking the legislature to approve a big incentive package. And while it didn't say that it was linked to Panasonic, it was rumored to be linked to Panasonic and Tesla. But now Kansas got the better end, so it's now 0-2 when it comes to Oklahoma and the giant EV related project. So sorry, people for Oklahoma, but Kansas takes the win here, and they're talking about a $4 billion investment, 4,000 jobs. Unfortunately, they never confirmed the actual production capacity, so we kind of have to just like make a quick back of the napkin math. But a $4 billion investment, 4,000 job. I mean, has to be, I think, in the high two-digit gigawatt hour. I would think so. I don't know, 50 to 100 would be my guess. And that's of course a lot for enough for hundreds of thousands of electric vehicle per year. And the idea is that Panasonic is the biggest customer is likely going to be Tesla in Texas. So sending those battery cells to Gigafactory Texas in Austin. Yeah, it's exciting because Tesla likely in the next year or two, the battery cells is going to be Tesla's biggest bottleneck as they ramp up production.
You know, it's kind of funny.
What?
It's right between Kansas and Texas. When that train is taking those batteries from Kansas to Texas,
Oklahoma. they're gonna see the truck go by, but they're not gonna get the job.
Or hopefully the
It's
train.
a big bummer.
Yeah.
I don't know why they cannot close it, because especially they had the distance advantage on this. If the goal was to get close to Gigafactory Texas. All right, Elon Musk commented a little bit about the next full self-driving beta update. So we've been waiting for V11 version 11 of the system that is supposed to merge the two stacks into a single stack for both highway and city driving. So right now, if you're using Autopilot, you're using a stack, especially for Autopilot, that has been around for a long time, but has been improving and whatnot. And then you have a separate task with full self driving, which Tesla has been putting a lot more effort into over the last 2 years. So now some of those improvements with that are going to come to autopilot, um, highway driving. The way I say that, I mean, I don't think it would. I'm not sure it will necessarily result in any improvement to the autopilot system, fleet wide. I think it's more like for if you have FSD beta now, it's going to be like that on the highway, because if you use FSD beta, what you see here right now on the image where the corners or the sides of the roads are red and the middle is yellow and everything, you only see that when you're on non-highway roads. When you end up on the highway roads, you get the same UI that you have on autopilot. Um, so I think they're going to be a merger of that of those two systems. But so that's supposed to have been coming for the last few months. It's keep getting delayed. Now Elon Musk said that it's coming the end of next month, so around the end of August. But in the meantime, next week we should get 10.13, and no, not much detail other than it should handle Chuck's complex left turn. So he's referencing Chuck Cook, who's an early Tesla FSD beta tester that has been testing a lot on the same difficult unprotected left turn that FSD beta is having issue. So apparently that could handle it. But then he actually, Elon, if you know Elon, you know he's a kind of he's a big proponent of superlative, and he likes to hype the software update, especially when it comes to FSD beta. And he's used a lot of words like, "Oh, it's going to be fire, it's going to be mind blowing," all that. We are not getting any of that for V11. Actually, he's kind of managing expectation when it comes to V11. He said that the beta of V11, hopefully end of next month, would just amount to incorporating highway. Importance of V11 has been reduced by all the 10.x releases. We are already mostly at V11. So he's saying that the 10.12 that just was released in May, 10.13 that is coming apparently next week. Those are pretty much V11 without the highway driving being incorporated. So this is kind of we'll not expect a giant bump in the FSD beta city driving situation. It's going to be more how it handles highway driving, which to be honest, it's kind of scary a little bit for me. Why? Because I've been using it for the last 2 months, and like I posted in an article, like my opinion hasn't changed a lot. I think that FSD beta is extremely good in terms of the computer vision system, and it detects its environment very well. And like kudos to the team for doing that. This is impressive on its own. But when it comes to the decision making, I think it's the equivalent of a 14-year-old boy that just has been learning to drive over the last week, and sometimes appears to be on hard drugs because there's some wild things that happen. And when I use the FSD beta, it's a job for me. Like I'm not doing it to like, oh, okay, let me get to my destination and be able to monitor the road, monitor the system just slightly, and I'll be able to get there safely. It's more like, all right, let's see how it does with this road right now, and then I turn it on and I'm like, all right, let's experience this, and like, whoa, be careful and everything. But when I use autopilot, and I just used it, like I said, I drove 2,000 miles over the last week, and I most of those miles were on autopilot on the highway, and it's a great experience. It's super easy to use. It's safe for the most part. Of course, you're always paying attention at all time, but that's the thing. By removing some of the task of driving, you can pay better attention, and I think it makes the whole experience safer and more enjoyable. I don't want that to go away because there's a single stack. FSD is also on the highway. Like if it gets on the highway, it has to be as good, if not better, than autopilot. Otherwise, it's gonna be a big bummer, especially since I have to drive back to Canada in the next few weeks. So, but I think I'm gonna be fine. Since if Elon says end of August, I think I think we can expect sometime in September, most likely.
Yeah, sounds about right. I'm still not on it.
You're not missing much, so don't worry about it. It's the whole. I think that's the whole point. We're not missing much. All right. Speaking of autopilot and AI, all that, Tesla the big loss this week. They lose they lost Andre Carperty, who was the head of AI and the computer vision at Tesla, and he was seen as one of the top leader of the autopilot team. Though Elon has kind of been talking about him like taking a step back lately. He said that he's getting Andre's getting too much credit, and he said, of course, he couldn't just say that because that sounds rude. He said, I'm getting too much credit too. Andre's getting too much credit when it comes to autopilot. Andre is more just leading the AI effort at Tesla, and Mr. Um, Ashok I'm so sorry. It's a very difficult name to say. Ashok El Uswami, I think, is the head of Autopilot now, and he has been for the last year or so. But Andre has been on a sabbatical since March, and he said he was going on a 4 month sabbatical. But when we reported that, we were like, yeah, you never
We've
know
seen,
with Tesla. Yeah, what do you say, Seth?
we've seen this story before.
Yeah,
Doug Field went on a sabbatical,
yeah.
never came back. I feel like somebody else did that too.
Yeah, I'm blanking too, but I do remember Doc Field. I feel like it. Oh well, I mean, no, the only one that did went on a sabbatical and came back was Jérôme Guillaume.
Oh, right,
We did come back, but then left maybe a year or two later.
right.
So anyway, for general, when you go on a sabbatical at Tesla, like it's hard to come back. But he said that. It's been a great pleasure to help Tesla towards its goal over the last 5 years and a difficult decision to part ways. In that time, Autopilot graduated from lane keeping to city streets, and I look forward to seeing the exceptionally strong Autopilot team continue that momentum. He did not say where he was going. He only said that he will continue to pursue his long-term passion around technical work in AI, open source, and education. He says that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets snapped up with a juicy, nice contract and another self-driving firm.
So Apple, Google,
Any of those.
plenty of money.
Yeah.
One of the smaller ones, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's been the case almost every time for all the former autopilot leader. Like they all end up in either, like you said, the big ones or Aurora or well, Aurora's pretty big now too at this point.
Right.
Or the other automakers like I mean Xpeng is also an effort. The Ford is also this effort. So um, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him there too, or maybe more on the AI stuff. Like he has more of a focus on AI than though self driving is kind of an application, a real world application of AI.
Yeah, I wonder if the Tesla bot is going to be affected by this.
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost the program that's most affected in autopilot since he's kind of been phasing out of autopilot lately and more going towards the broader AI effort at Tesla.
Right. So do you think that's going to get delayed or put on the back burner
Well,
or
I mean, get
canceled?
delayed. The official timeline is that this thing is going to be in production next year. So I always thought that was insanity. That there's no way this is getting in production next year. But if anything, people are gonna. So if someone were to call right now, oh, Caperdi is gone, Tesla boat is going to be delayed. It's like you might be right. It just might not be for that reason because it's going to get
Right.
delayed modestly anyway.
It was never coming next year.
Yeah, oh, I would have been
In
shocked.
no alternative universe was
No.
it coming next year.
Yeah, if there's an infinity of universe, there's none of them that has a
Right.
Tesla AI bot in 2020, 2023.
Right.
All right, do you want to talk a little bit about Aventon? Sorry about that.
No worries. Yes. This week's electric podcast is sponsored by Aventon Electric Bikes. Aventon offers premium e-bikes and accessories at great value. Adventure delivered direct to your front door. The company offers a wide range of electric bicycles armed with a powerful e-bike motor that goes up to 28 miles per hour. That's class 3 here in the US. That includes its award-winning next-gen Pace 500 and 350 that set a new standard for upright cruiser bikes with their latest feature and design upgrades. The next-gen Pace 500 it has an improved battery that is now fully integrated into the frame, along with integrated rear brake lights and headlight. It's available in various sizes and colors, and you'll also find a step-through frame option on the new models. You can check out the new Aventon Pace 500 and 350 on the company's website, aventon.com. That's AVENTON.com. And thank you, Aventon, for sponsoring. These are great bikes. Our local bike shop just got a few in, and they're solid.
All right, thank you, Aventon. We have a few more news items to discuss, and then we're gonna jump into the comment section. So if you have any comment, any question for us, you can put them in the comment section right now. We're gonna get to them in about 20 to 30 minutes. If you can put question in all cap before your question, that would be super helpful for us to find them over all the discussions, though I don't see that many discussions in the comments today. All right. The big unveiling this week was the Ionic 6, though it kind of still the show last week with some images that got released, or was it the week before that? And pretty recently, but we got the full unveiling this week, and it's we especially the images. Like there was a lot of question about the design. People weren't so sure. It's a very it's a bolder design that people are used to, even though the Ionic 5 was kind of also an unusual design. But this is like people thought, okay, well now Hyundai is gonna with the Ionic 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and whatever is gonna come after that, it's gonna be kind of with the same design cues as the 5. But this is a completely different thing. I mean, there's nothing that reminds me much of the Ionic 5 and the Ionic 6. Of course, Ionic 5 is more of a crossover, and this is kind of a sedan, but still. Ooh, in black, it's oh no, that was the concept, right? The concept is always a little bit better for sure. But yeah, there it is. There you go. So a little bit more of more traditional front end, kind of almost a Porsche, maybe a Taycan kind of front end. But it's the side view that is unconventional a little bit. Very
Yeah,
rounded lines. Sorry.
yeah. It almost reminds me of like what a Citroen would look like.
Oh, you caught off there. What looked like?
A Citroen, like
Oh
the
yeah, yes, yeah.
uh, that rounded back. I wonder if that tail is like an accessory. Like, could you take that off?
Yeah, it's almost because of the way that the trunk ends, it almost look like a double tail. But
Yeah,
I think really the Ionic 6, the big design, the main design feature is the curb line with the doors and the window here.
yeah.
This is what gives it this really specific look. Because I
I
think if
like.
you were just to look it as like a silhouette, it would look more of a like a regular sedan. But with that curve, it gives it a completely different look. I'm not mad at it, and from all the comments I've seen, I think most people are enjoying it.
Yep.
So we have 48,000 millimeters of length, 1,800 millimeters of wide, height of about 1,500 millimeters. Don't do we have a okay? It's yeah, it's a little bit shorter than the Ionic 5.
Really?
Um, that's although the wheelbase is
Oh,
shorter.
okay.
Is the actual vehicle shorter? I don't know.
Yeah, the Ionic 5 has a deceptively long wheelbase.
Yeah, and it is bigger than you would like it when you look at pictures, and when you see in person, it is bigger than it looks.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a little bit. It seems like closer in relation to the Kia EV6 than the Ionic 5,
Hmm.
and it's got.
Cleaner inside, and too, the interior looks cleaner than the Ioniq 5 for me.
Yep.
It looks like they cleaned it up a little bit more minimalist than the Ioniq 5. Not that the Ioniq 5 is extremely busy, but a little bit more less here. Of course, this is the European version with the cameras on each side. With the screens are right here to replace the mirrors. This is the back seat. It looks very spacious, but you have to be careful with those pictures. Sometimes they do a little trickery the way they take the pictures. It looks extremely spacious, and that woman is 4 feet tall. You never know. All right. I mean, everything when it comes to the powertrain, this thing is still powered by the same technology that's the NX 5. So you get the 53 or 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack, the extremely efficient 14 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. You get the single motor rear wheel drive or dual motor all wheel drive option. The all wheel drive gets you 239 kilowatts. We don't have the rear wheel drive power. 379 miles of range. That's 610 kilometers, but that's WLTP. So you can expect something a little bit shorter on the EPA side of things, but not that much shorter. I mean, I would expect something significantly over 300 miles of range here. 0 to 62 in 5.1, but that's for the top tier performance edition. Against, you have the dual platform 400 and 800 volt, so you can expect the super fast charging. They're talking about the same, of course, as the Ioniq 5. So at 10 to 80% in 18 minutes, it's going to receive over-the-air software update. It has vehicle to load capacity just like the 5. It's going to support both CarPlay and Android Auto, and will become equipped with all the Hyundai SmartSense advanced driver assist features. The whole shebang. Yeah, they're also teasing a N series, so Hyundai's N kind of name scheme is for like the performance version vehicle, and they tease the version of it here. We don't have it here though. No, okay. Thought we see some images. In terms of the timing, when are we going to see that? Deliveries in 2023 for North America, but it's going to come sooner. Production is beginning this quarter, so we can expect by the end of the year in Asia and Europe. Deliveries in 2023. Don't have a specific timing in 2023, but should follow shortly after the European deliveries, in my opinion. We don't have pricing just yet. I would expect this is going to be priced a little bit higher than Ioniq 5. I think that's going to be fair, right?
Yep. Maybe toward the Genesis, but not quite Genesis level.
Yeah, it does look sweet. It looks like Hyundai has always been good at like kind of straddling this segment of like it's not premium, but it looks like premium, and it's like it's
Right.
like it was one of my first car was a Hyundai Tiburon, and like it's a very nice sports car that doesn't cost that much money. While a sports looking car, the performance
Right.
was not
Right.
always super great, but that when you're a 20-year-old and you don't need like a super powerful car that's gonna wreck anyway.
Right.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Taiga Orca. So I kind of teased it last week, and when we were on the podcast, I just came back from my test ride in it, and I couldn't talk about the whole thing because there was a little embargo coming out and everything. But now I can say everything about it, and I can tell you this is pure, unadulterated fun. This thing is just a fun machine. Kind of talked a little bit about it last week, but it is like I've always looked just the day before I was on the Orca. I was on the St. Lawrence River, and I was looking at a bunch of people like having fun on jet skis and everything. And I was looking at them like this looks like a ton of fun to do. And then they were having a blast. They were laughing and everything. It was super loud, so it was kind of annoying for us. But like I was like, they're having fun. This looks like fun. But I was thinking, okay, if I was on it and I was trying to have that fun, knowing how I am about energy efficiency and also like I don't like spending money on gas and everything. I actually would have a tough time having fun on this thing because I would play on it for half an hour, then I will be thinking, yeah, I just burned like $15 of gas. Was that worth the fun I had on this thing? Also, was super loud. Was I bothering the neighbors and, and whatnot? So I'm like, there's a lot of compromise with the fun that you can have on this. This thing, there's no compromise. It's completely conscience free fun. You jump onto the jet ski, you have the same crazy performance on it. Way the sound is way lower. I mean, you still get the sound of the wave smacking against the body of the. I keep calling it jet ski because people know these things as jet ski, but technically jet ski is a brand or a trademark of Yamaha, I think. Yamaha or Kawasaki.
Yeah, one of those two.
Yeah, one of those two. So the actual word for it is a personal watercraft. In this case, an electric personal watercraft, but all the same experience. But I mean, you can charge this thing at home, zero emission, so you don't actually pollute the beautiful environment that you're most likely going to use this in because you're going to use this in nature. In this case, I was testing it in Montreal, starting from the old port. Taiga has offices in Montreal, and they deploy one of their first chargers at the old port. They have a nice charging station, but to be honest, you don't even need that because the most marinas, including the one at old port, they have like 240-volt plugs all along the marina everywhere, so you can just like plug it right there, and you're gonna charge it pretty quickly with the 240-volt. This thing takes DC fast chargers, so Taiga is developing their own DC fast charging station at marinas around not around the world just yet, but starting in Quebec, and they are expanding to the rest of Canada and the US. And but for the most part, as a personal use vehicle, the fast charging is more like if you want to use this as a like a commercial application where you want to rent them out, for example, at a specific spot. You want to be able to use these things all day. So yes, you're gonna a fast charging station would be useful for that. But if you're using this yourself as a personal vehicle, like you have a trailer, you bring it to the lake, or you have your own K at a marina or whatever, you can just use this thing for an hour or two, which is, by the way, plainly like it's been a while since I've done any jet ski, but it's hard on the body, that thing. Like if you go hard like a while, like it's a workout. I was looking at my Apple Watch, and like I was on it on 15-20 minutes, and it gave me like a good like 12 minutes of like active exercise and like 200 or something calories burned, because you go hard. It's hard on the body, but you're gonna be tired after an hour or whatever, maybe 2 hours of like switching with friends or family. And then you bring that thing home, or you bring that thing to the K, and you plug it into the 110-volt, and the machine's gonna charge overnight. So extreme fun, for again fun, but with a clean conscience, because you're not burning gas or annoying your neighbor with crazy sounds. The powertrain, I mean, this is Taiga's big advantage here. Like they've been working on that powertrain for a long time. There's not that many companies that have been working on very robust and powerful electric powertrain for these kind of vehicles. Like, I mean, the electric cars, there's a ton of company now that have like very good powertrain. Electric bikes, you have a ton of company that have a great powertrain. But things in between for these kind of motorsport vehicle, there's not that much. But Taiga has been working, of course, we've reported before, on their electric snowmobile, and this is the exact same powertrain that's adapted in a different vehicle, because snowmobiles and jet skis are about the same size. So it's a 120 kilowatt peak motor output, equivalent to about 160 horsepower. They have a range mode though that limits it to 40 kilowatt hour, and at 40 I was already like, oh, you can have a lot of fun at 40 kilowatt hour. Like I had to be convinced by Sam Bruno, the CEO of the company, to actually upgrade to sports mode, which I think brings you to 70 kilowatt. And then there's wild mode that unleashed the whole thing, but that was not actually accessible on that vehicle. The reason they gave me is that they had investor coming in earlier in the day, and they thought that it would be better to lock the top version of the vehicle for them, not to have anyone go too crazy on this thing. So
Interesting.
in terms of the range, I have a 24 kilowatt hour battery pack that they fit in that, which is kind of impressive when you look at the size of it. Because the size is kind of a mid-range jet ski. It's not one of the biggest jet ski, one of the smaller ones. It's actually a two-seater. You can have two people comfortably sitting on this, but it doesn't look that big when you look at it. And fitting a 24 kilowatt hour battery pack in there, it's impressive. I was asking like what kind of batteries they use. Like it must be quite energy dense batteries, but this is apparently top secret stuff. They don't want to reveal it.
Hmm.
And when you talk to people, that's always a question. Oh, what's the range on this? What's the range on this? Like it's a motorsport vehicle. The range is whatever you make it to be when you actually use it. The way they talk about it, it's like you can 45 kilometers of range on the when you put it in range mode. But it's you more use it in like hours of fun. Really, that's really more what this is about. And definitely, we can use it for a good hour of fun, pushing it relatively hard. If you go slower, you can do it like 2-3 hours. And they say that sometimes they win the whole day of like test rides and stuff on one unit, and like people weren't pushing it too hard, and you can last the whole day on it. But again, I come back to the fact that after an hour or two, you're gonna be dead tired on this thing. They're starting deliveries right now, so that was the big news. They're starting deliveries, and they're starting with a Thunder series version. They're doing kind of like the Tesla approach. The Thunder series, though, they have the same powertrain and everything as the regular version. It's just that you have a carbon fiber body, and also some more choices in terms of like the seat covers and the colors on the vehicle. But when it comes to performance, this is the same thing. So the starting price of it is $17,000 USD, which is a little bit higher than a gasoline version that is somewhat equivalent in terms of the power output. So, but keep in mind, you never have to pay for gas on that thing, and you spend a lot on gas when you use a jet ski. So, in terms of the cost of ownership, you're gonna make your money back pretty quickly. The Thunder Series version that they are delivering right now is a lot more expensive. It's $24,000, but I think it's already pretty much sold out anyway, so you don't have to worry much about that. I mean, after trying it, I came back to the port and I was telling Sam about it. I was like, you guys don't even need to sell those things. Like, you just, there's no marketing effort involved in this. All you need to do is have like test ride events, and to get people on the seat, and you get people to try it, and like, obviously this is a better solution for a jet ski than anything else on the market right now. Like, and it's obvious, that's the case for a lot of anything you make electric. You're like, this makes more sense. They just did it very well. Like, this is for a relatively small startup that is getting started. This is a very well executed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it
Any
looks
question
really
about it,
nice.
Seth?
Well, I'm wondering, like a commenter, Guan Co mentions that he used to own a Sea-Doo and it was just a lot of maintenance.
Mhm.
Did they talk about maintenance being, I mean, obviously fewer moving parts, not exploding, uh,
Yeah,
combusting.
all
It's
the
going to
same
be,
advantages that you get into an electric car, you're going to get in this. There's basically no maintenance to do whatsoever. All you have to do is, like, okay, something might break at times. It's not impossible. This is a vehicle that gets a lot of use in harsh environment. Taiga did their whole due diligence and quality control to make it to make it as lasting as possible. But they do using a dealership network in order to service them if something happens.
and you said DC, looking at the screen right now, you can see that a typical CCS combo,
Yeah.
it uses just a standard CCS combo port for DC charging as well.
Yeah, yeah, they have. You can use a J1772, which what was being plugged in right there,
Uh-huh.
or and it comes with a charger, of course. Or you can use a CCS, and they have a few already deployed. I think they mostly have for the snowmobile right now, but I know that they have a fast charger. I think in Magog they have one,
Hmm.
uh, Lake Magog, a big lake in south of Quebec. But they're deploying more and more, and but again, I think the fast charging is more for a commercial application of this. Like, if you want to rent them out and you have a little fleet and you want to charge them. If you're a consumer, you should more worried about, do you want to have a level 2 charging, or just level 1 overnight might be enough for you. I think that's more the decision to be made here.
Yeah.
We have Jonathan saying, "My God, 24,000, 17,000, play toy for the rich." I mean, that not that's not Taiga. That's jet skis and personal watercraft in general. Those are play toys for the rich, unless you buy used. And then if you buy used, it's like the other guy said, the Guanco, then you have to worry about maintenance a lot. So there's nothing special, unique to Taiga there.
Yeah.
All right, Canu kind of came back from the dead this week. The Walmart gave them a lifeline with an order of up to 10,000 delivery van. So Canu has this vehicle that's kind of a hybrid. Like, you can do whatever. Like, you can do a lot of things with that kind of deal and a vehicle, and turn it into a delivery van if you want. And Walmart is going to use it as a delivery van with I think the initial order is at least 4,500 van, and it can be up to 10,000. But they also have an option to convert to exercise a purchase of up to 61 million shares that would give them about the 20% ownership into the company. So that helped double the stock price, which was kind of hurting over the last few months. Like a lot of those smaller EV startup that win the SPAC deal away over the last year, uh, the um, the timing wasn't great for for a lot of them, and since a lot of them went public without ever reaching production, it's been an issue, and that affected Canoe. But this order from Walmart is a big kind of seal of approval from a giant company like Walmart. But at the same time, like, we've seen those happen before, like GM and the Nikola deal, for example. You have to be careful. I'm not saying that this is the same. Of course, Nikola had a bunch of other problem, like a CEO that would lie to his teeth. But there's a lot of things that comes risky with this. But this the Canoe, they call it the electric LDVS for lifestyle delivery vehicle. It has 120 cubic feet of fully customizable cargo volume, 1,500 pounds of payload capacity, DC fast charging from 20 to 80% in 28 minutes. Um, Level 2 driver assist feature, 200 plus miles of range, and rear cargo light. Okay, some images here of the what it looks inside. Is there any timeline for delivering those units? The Walmart branded LEVs are expected to hit the roads around the US in 2023. But okay, some units is going to be also delivered in Dallas within the coming weeks. Okay, Dallas. So if you're in Texas, you might see those around sooner than next year. All right, we have a few more news items, and then we're going to jump into the comment section. So be ready for that and put your question in the comment section. All right, Ford has filed new trademarks for electric version of the Maverick and the Ranger. So those are it's two entry-level pickup truck, smaller, and the smallest being the Maverick, and then the Ranger before moving to the F-150 line. So the F-150, of course, you have the F-150 Lightning that already been electrified in the lineup. And when I say electrified, I mean actually all-electric powertrain, because the Maverick actually is already a hybrid, I think, and I don't know about the Rangers if there's any electric option. But in Europe, Ford has filed for names for the Maverick Lightning and Ranger Lightning, which obviously would point to electric version. And then when you look at the category in which they filed those trademarks, it is specifically for pickup trucks and electric vehicles. So we assume that. But at the same time, I also found U.S. filing dating from a week prior that filed for Maverick Thunder and Ranger Thunder, and that also is filed under pickup trucks and electric vehicles. So this is strange. So looks like, well, I mean, we already knew that Ford was looking to electrify more than the F-150 when it comes to the pickup truck, and it made sense to go down market before going up market with the bigger trucks like the 250 and all those. So the Maverick and the Rangers are primed to be uh, electrified by the fully electric powertrain. But now it looks either going to be called the Thunder or the Lightning. Also, Ford also filed a trademark for the F-150 Thunder. So I don't know what's that about. The F-150 electric version that seems to be solidified as the Lightning, but the Thunder might be in their cards too. So here's a little diagram that shows the difference in sizes. So the forefront one is the Maverick, and then you have the Ranger, who is about 10 centimeter longer and a few inches taller. No, 10 inches. Sorry, 10 inches longer and 2 inches higher. And then the F-150 is a good 20 inches longer and 4 inches higher than the Ranger. So the Maverick and the Ranger, you see them. The Maverick and the F-150, you see them side by side, and you see a massive difference. But the Maverick you can still have with the full cab, four doors cab. So it's just that the bed is pretty small when you have that when you have a full cab. All right, finally, VinFast has been making some wave lately. This Vietnamese company that's been making some advancement into the electric vehicle market has recently opened a bunch of retail store in Canada and in the US, starting for their electric SUV that's coming to market, the VF8 and the VF9, and they announced a massive deal in North Carolina this week. They receive a package deal for $1.2 billion worth of incentive. Of course, that's going to be over a certain period of time as they um, invest into the manufacturing there. But yeah, it's in the Chatham, I think county. I think it's just west of Riley. The factory is going to be built there, and it's going to produce hundreds of thousands of electric vehicles. We're supposed to go test out these VinFast SUVs, and we have a better idea of how serious the effort is. I mean, money-wise, it's obviously serious, but it's not a lot of people know about Vietnamese electric vehicles. Like, what's that about? It's quite new for the Western world. So I think within the next few weeks or at least months, we're gonna have a better idea with Scooter going out there to test out their vehicle. All right, let's jump into the comment section.
All right. Let's see. So we talked before the show. Farfolo Mu says every day I flip flop between thinking EVs are the future and thinking that they're a dead end. Here's hoping that this podcast will revitalize me for at least an extra day or two. And we asked him why. before the show, and he says, one, EVs are way too expensive. I don't know if that's the case, especially if you look at
Cost of
total cost of
ownership.
ownership, right? Two, EVs have such a hard uphill battle in range anxiety versus gasoline, and I mean that does exist, but I think once you're used to it, you actually get gasoline anxiety if you don't have an electric car. Like you wake up every morning with 300 miles of range, and if that's not the case, like with gasoline, it's stressful. And then three, except for the first 2 points, EVs are perfect for everything else. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right. They're perfect for everything else. Like they do win on almost every category. To his 2 points, I mean, EV are way too expensive. EVs are expensive. Every new car right now is expensive, period, with inflation. But when you look at the cost of ownership over time with gas savings, then there's no doubt in my mind that EVs are a better financial choice than a gas powered vehicle, especially when you account for value of resale. Like the EVs are holding their value a lot better than gasoline cars these days, even though gasoline cars are holding also their value a lot because just the used car market is crazy right now. But so I think financially speaking, they are a better choice. There's no doubt about it. And in terms of the range anxiety, I think that's I don't know, maybe far follow Mew has not have an EV, hasn't had the chance to use it as a daily driver, but any kind of range anxiety, I think, goes away pretty quickly over time. I just drove 2,000 miles over the last week, a giant road trip from deep in Quebec all the way to now I'm in Mississippi, and a very smooth experience using the supercharger network. And no anxiety whatsoever. Like, if you know where you're going, you're not supposed to have any range anxiety. Uh, and most people, when they drive, they have a specific destination where they're going. And every time I stop at a supercharger, I think the lowest I got, I had 31 miles left in it. So I wasn't worried about it at all. 31 miles is still a good distance. I could have probably made it to another charging station if I needed to, if something didn't work with that one. And it always worked. And then so it was a pretty fast road trip. Like within 4 days, we went from Montreal to um, here in Oxford, Mississippi, and we to save more time to what we did, we chose hotels that had chargers at the hotel, which made it super easy. Every morning we would wake up with 300 miles of range. We could make 300 miles, stop for lunch. So 300 miles, like it's three something hours of driving. You're pretty tired after 3 hours of driving. You stop for lunch at a supercharger, your car is fully charged, and then you're back on the road. And that's like you said, that's an extreme version of it. Most of the time, you just drive to work or whatever, and then you drive back home and you wake up with a full charge overnight. That's the more common use of it. And no, I mean, I think the EVs have won already. It's just a question of like ramping up at this point. There's no
Yeah,
there's no
educating people as well.
yeah, there's no dead end like for follow Mew said.
All right. Moving on, Tyler Donahoe. Question: will electric motorcycles adopt the same charging standards as the car chargers?
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
mean,
already happening, right?
yeah, it's already happening. It's just a more of a question of like, oh, do you want to have a onboard level 2 charger in there because it's quite big to fit in a motorcycle, so it's kind of a choice to make. And I know some manufacturers offer it. Like, do you want just one level 1 because you cannot fit that big. Like we're talking about Taiga fitting a 24 kilowatt hour battery pack into a jet ski. There's not a lot of vehicle that can fit the 24 motorcycle that can fit that and make it safe. So you can charge that overnight on level 1 pretty easy. So you might not even need a level 2 charging, but so that can become optional. And then you have level 3, obviously, if you want to do some more road trip. So I think it's more about like having different options. But yeah, it's going to be CCS and J1772, I think, for most cases.
All right. Moving on. Question: who is liable when an Ionic 5 burns out or up while charging on a Tesla supercharger? With Tesla charging on Tesla, it's Tesla.
I think
Yeah,
there would be an investigation or something to see what happened. I think there would be a lot of media headline blaming everyone, and then investigation, and then an actual cause is found, and we go from there. but I don't think that's a major concern, to be honest.
All right. MJL says FSD did not, capital NOT, solve Chuck's left turn. I thought he
I
was
mean, Elon,
future.
yeah, Elon said the 10.13, which is the one coming next week. So I don't think anyone said that was supposed to solve it until now.
All right, Jonathan Root, unions will be gaining significantly more importance in the coming years given the labor market, including unions provisions now makes political sense. I don't know if he was just
Yeah, I'm not sure.
monologuing there, but no question, I guess. I guess that's kind of true. All right, moving on. Tyler Donahoe is talking about the
Ionic
Ioniq
6.
6. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
I can see the squish beetle a little bit there.
Richard Tier question: if Aptera do end up using Tesla connector in their cars, would that make Tesla eligible for the multi-billion-dollar grants recently?
I
That's
was
interesting.
thinking about that because what Rich is referring to here is that the actual way that the bill is phrased, all you need to get access to the funding is that the charging station can be used by more than one a vehicle by more than one automaker. So instead of like you opening up to everyone with a CCS adapter, you could just partner with a single other automaker and you would still technically be eligible to the funding. Obviously, that would be like playing the system a little bit. I don't think Tesla is going to go for that, but technically, I think you're right. To be honest, Aptera uh, Aptera doesn't even need the charging that much. Like, the whole idea is like the solar
Right.
and everything, and they have a 600-mile version of the uh, of the vehicle. Like you could literally go driving all day without need of charging and then charge overnight. So if there's one car that doesn't actually need this fast charging that much, it would be the Aptera. So Tesla could very well partner with them and have them onboard them on the supercharger network, and it probably wouldn't be a big load for them in terms of like the wait time and all that.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, this is interesting. Farfolo Mew is back saying definitely a problem, Tyler, referring to the economics of EVs. But when I bought my Bolt 3 weeks ago, it was the cheapest new car at the dealer. High auto prices are not just an EV problem right now. Well, that's a
That's what
weird
we're
thing to
talking about.
I mean, this is the guy who earlier said that EVs were too expensive, and he just bought a Bolt,
He's hard to follow.
the cheapest car on the lot. All
Yeah,
right,
the only problem with the Bolt, again, we discussed that before, but it's not really a road trip car. Like for the long distance
yeah,
driving, because of the limited fast charging capacity, and then the range anxiety can kick in on that. But as long as you know that and you're not planning to use it too much as a road trip car, and it's a perfect vehicle.
all right. We have a caps lock. Michael Smithers. I saw an electric article about max charge rates, but no mention was made of the actual impact on charge time. The charge curve is hugely important. Having a higher charge rate for a minute is meh. That's a good
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
It's true, but oftentimes we don't get the full thing. They just tell us the max charge rate.
Yeah, the automakers are getting better about that, and they will share more like a 10 to 80, a 20 to 80% state of charge in how many minutes. Which you're right is definitely more valuable information than it's charged at 350 kilowatts or whatever, or some kind of Tesla likes to use like how many miles per hours you charge, but even that, like you see that when you plug into a supercharger, like at first it charged like 2,000 miles per hour, but then it tempers down to like 300 miles per hour. So even that information is not ideal. But
Yeah.
yeah, the best information is like give me a 10 to 80% in how many minutes. That's the one that people like.
Tyler Donahoe says Canoe is what I feel like an electric truck should actually be. The motors are by the wheels. You now have all that space where the engine used to be. Just move the driver forward and give more cargo. This is
Well,
kind of
that's basically every electric vehicle out there, though.
right. All right, I'll move back. And then, of course, you remove the frunk and the crumple zone if you do that. Question. All right, here's the last question we have. Question: will the Polestar 3 be a 7-seater?
Well, they haven't really unveiled it fully yet, so We just learned that it might be a little bit more expensive than people are thinking. Like the CEO just said, the 75,000 euros to 110,000 euros. So comparing it to like a Porsche Cayenne, so it's maybe a little bit more high end that people were thinking of. I know that Polestar is kind of branding itself as like a premium automaker, but not like a full luxury one, like Porsche, in my opinion. So the Cayenne is not a 7-seater, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, my first guess would be probably not, but maybe I don't know. We'll have to wait. October, I think, is when they are unveiling it fully.
Yeah.
So we'll wait until then. But that's it for the show this week. I think Sid and I are gonna crash because we had a tough week. But thanks a lot for listening to the show this week. Thanks a lot to Aventon for the sponsor of the show. You can check out in their website in the release note in the
Show notes.
in the show notes on Electrek right here. You just click on it, and we're gonna see you same time, same place next week.